Welcome to Life
on
Life's
Terms
with your host Justin
and Chelsey.
Topics are,
We're going to talk about Justin Trudeau's plastic ban and the carbon tax.
and I'm going to get into why isolation apparently is unconstitutional. However, our federal government decides to continue isolation in the federal penitentiaries.
All right.
And then the last wrap up on the show is we're going to talk about taking a break for the first week of July.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're back for the second week of July with a whole bunch of brand new episodes. And we'll talk about what's going on in the time from the recording until we come back.
Definitely.
So let's get into this fucking idiot, Justin Trudeau.
Holy.
So I'm pretty sure everybody has heard that he was talking about these juice box drink things.
Plastic, I mean cardboard. Yeah.
So have you ever looked inside of a juice box?
Isn't there plastic on the inside?
Yep.
Yeah, so it doesn't leak, right? Isn't
That's
that the
right.
whole point? Like a plastic coating.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So is that any better than a plastic bottle?
I would think not.
Yeah. I mean, it's so we talked a little bit too off the air, and I think in your podcast you taught your solo podcast, which congratulations for doing a solo podcast.
Good times.
Yeah, it was a learning experience for sure. You talked a little bit about how it's more expensive to refine recyclable plastics than it is to create new plastics.
Yeah, and that was a shocker for me.
I think it's a shocker for everybody when you get in, like when you dive deep into that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so by banning plastic, it doesn't equate to anything. I mean, when we stop plastic, all it does is it just kills an entire industry.
Well, yeah.
An entire market, right? Now, what would be the most viable replacement for plastic? Glass bottles.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So you want to see what Google said to me? I punched in, why don't we use glass instead of plastic? It says the main reason why plastic bottles are preferred is because they are lightweight, which makes them easier to carry around. Plastic bottles are also exceedingly durable, which means they can be dropped without breaking.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, plastic is generally provide brilliant thermal insulation. So it actually, I guess it's more thermal than glass is, which I can see. I mean, glass isn't really going to hold heat. Plastic will, right? Like even
I
your,
guess.
styrofoam.
I'm just picturing a pop bottle, though.
Well, think about those styrofoam cups that you get from Tim Hortons.
Right.
Yeah, you think it's cardboard. No. That's a styrofoam based. There's petroleum in that. Right? So
Yeah, they leak eventually.
They will leak
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
Like it will finally get eaten through or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not it's not just cardboard.
No.
Right? There's other things that go into that cup. So this guy saying we need to ban plastic, he's just virtual signaling. Literally virtual signaling, trying to say, Canada, which equates to 0.09% of the global pollution, needs to now defecate on itself and take more away. You were talking in your podcast about the difference between being a producer of a solution or conserving,
Yeah.
like restricting yourself.
Yeah.
Canada is all about restricting.
Apparently.
And I think the contrast of that ideology in Canada, which is hard for Canadians to really manage, is that we are a resource-based economy.
Yes,
We
definitely.
sell lumber, we sell gas, we sell minerals,
Yep.
we sell what comes out of the ground here.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the richest countries in the world, that's what they do in order to create economy. And to all of a sudden say, no, you can't. You're not allowed anymore. You have to cut this down. Yet we, as Canadians, are probably the most responsible when it comes to the environment next to any other country out there. in producing minerals, producing
Yeah.
oil,
Yeah.
producing lumber, and yet we're the ones who have to cut our wrists in order not to produce. And we take huge steps in responsibility and in regards to the environment, and yet it's still not enough. And this is why I think Canadians, for the most part, are so fed up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, when does it end?
Yeah.
Like,
where's that line? Is it ever good enough?
And I think that's the question. You know, like now it's plastic bottles and shit. And like Justin Trudeau is just all about getting reelected. He has no idea how much what the impact on the market that's going to produce for people in Canada.
I feel as though he's just saying what he thinks people want to hear.
Well, I think he actually believes it.
Yeah.
I think and that's the problem. Like, that's the problem.
Misinformation.
Well, I don't even know if it's misinformation. I think he just believes it because he can afford to believe it.
Right.
Right? Like, so if you bring a plastic bottle back to the bottle depot and a glass bottle, what do you get paid for more? You get paid more for the glass bottle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so when you go to buy a glass bottled whatever from the store, doesn't matter what's in it, your fucking deposit is higher. That's the money you're getting back is the deposit. You give a deposit, so people maybe they don't realize why you get money back. The government's not just giving you money back; they're giving you the deposit that you paid for.
Yeah, when you actually bought it.
Because the deposit's saying that you're going to recycle it. You're going to return this, and if you don't return it, we're taking 15 cents from you.
Yeah.
So that we can pay somebody to go and collect it out of the fucking garbage.
Yeah.
That's what that's. So now they've already lied to us, saying that we now have to pay people even more money to go and retrieve those bottles that people are not recycling.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's how do you think city sanitation pays for the recycling? They take all of your bottles that you just binned and categorized for them, and they bring it to the fucking bottle depot. And they get the money out of the deposit that you just willingly gave them.
Yeah.
That's how they're making their money.
And so many people aren't aware of that.
Or they just believe that they're just paying you deposit. No, man. Like they're not. That's not how this works. That's not what the government does. The government doesn't give you anything for free. I mean, fucking.
That's true.
like healthcare is not free. You paid for it with taxes, right? They're the ones who manage. The only thing that the government really does is they manage the taxation that you've given them. And when you find out that the only real reason why we use plastic is because it's lighter and it doesn't break, I mean, that's a pretty good fucking would you want to carry your bottle of pop and a glass bottle, drop it like you would a beer,
just shatter it everywhere.
And then be fucking pissed?
Yeah.
Right?
Can you imagine how much glass would be everywhere?
I'm surprised beer doesn't bottle their beer in plastic.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, there's a reason why it's in tin, right? But you're not going to make an aluminum tin for 2 liters.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like it's just preposterous. And then him to say, well, we need to ban this shit. Like, fuck off, man. Really, if you want to know where that comes from, investigate the Tides Corporation, because that's who's really pushing Justin Trudeau in regards to his environmental coup d'etat.
They're calling the shots or what?
Well, they paid him a bunch of money. So because they paid him X amount of dollars, what's going to, he just listens to them.
Yeah, yeah.
See, the government's for sale. And where you're going to find this propaganda most true is in the fact that these, Tides Corporation, which is a not-for-profit out of California, gave Justin Trudeau a bunch of money. And so he's just pushing their propaganda. He's pushing what they want. Therefore, Tides wants to see oil be stopped in Canada. Okay,
yes.
Well, look at who gave Tides money to stop oil in Canada. It's the fucking Rockefellers. You know what the Rockefellers own? Texaco.
Right, right.
It's to stop competition. Has nothing to do with we can't produce oil because it's shitty oil. I mean, that's not we don't have 2-year-old kids like Saudi Arabia does mining fucking oil. They literally have that in Saudi Arabia.
That young.
Yeah, Iran, same shit. Why do you think that it's not ethical oil? They don't give a fuck how they refine it.
No.
Why do you think India is the second highest? Like India, Saudi Arabia, Iran, that whole entire part of East Asia, air quotes, if that's what you want to call it, they have the second highest emissions for carbon.
Mm-hmm.
They don't give a fuck how they mine it. Like here in Canada, we could not get away with what they get away with.
Absolutely not. No.
Like it just doesn't work. Yet their oil's for sale way faster than ours is. Sure, granted, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
But do people really care about buying ethical oil? Apparently not. Like they're rich. They're so rich that they give gas away for free in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
You don't pay for it. You just pull up to a fucking to a gas station and you
Fill me
get
up.
gas.
Totally.
That's it. Like we have, and Alberta has the second amount of, like, we're the second largest oil reserve in the world to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I think, well, we just lost. So to put this in like real terms, I think Alberta's lost almost 5 million jobs. That's how many people have left Alberta. 5 million people. You go downtown Calgary and the homeless rate is reaching 38% now.
Oh my goodness.
Edmonton, we're sitting at 42% homeless rate.
Holy.
I mean, that's what carbon's giving you. Mm-hmm. It's very, very unfortunate.
It's a sad truth.
I mean, you see it all around. This is the whole entire ideology of we suck. We can't produce. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I don't know what else, like where else they can go from there. Like Alberta can't take any more. Oil accounts for 43% of the Canadian economy. Mm-hmm. You saw it when the automotive sector became number one.
Yeah.
So that's like, so when oil was good in Canada, we were 43% of the economy, and the automotive sector was only 15%. Then the automotive sector became 30% of our economy because oil had shrunk that much.
Yeah, that's a big jump for the
Now
car industry.
Now automotive doesn't even exist. It's gone. Trudeau lost that with the USMC deal. The new free trade deal that he did with America, he lost it.
Oh, yeah, right.
He lost it all. And now we don't even trade oil to America. America's not allowed to buy our oil. So like oil goes nowhere. Mm-hmm. That's where it's at. Like
when's the election?
This October.
Okay.
You'll be voting Trudeau?
What to keep him?
Well, what are your thoughts on all this, on this plastic ban shit that he's bringing in?
Well, I want to know what is he expecting then to replace plastic? Like, does he actually think it's going to be glass?
Those paper straws.
Well, there are already some paper straws, right?
Yeah, so it's voluntary, but he's making it legal. Like,
so everywhere.
Yeah, everybody has to do it. And there's no more plastic, like Coca-Cola won't be able to have plastic bottles anymore.
Yeah, that's my biggest confusion. Like, so all Coca-Cola, is he doing like Pepsi too?
Yeah,
it's
everybody.
all just going to be glass.
No plastic. Well, and he hasn't even said glass. He's not making a suggestion. He's just saying you're not allowed to use it anymore.
Probably because somebody hasn't told him what to say yet.
Well, he's basically, like, he's just saying you can't use plastic.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like just keep the plastic, I think.
Well, and then your bottles. So your baby bottles? Mm-hmm. No more.
Yeah. Like,
no
that's
more.
Such a massive, massive lifestyle change. And I spoke about that in my solo one. Like, how can people be expected to make these massive, massive lifestyle changes? People don't respond well to that.
Well, and then my question to you is, can you afford to pay more?
No.
Glass is more.
No. And like having a baby isn't expensive enough. Now we have to get glass bottles. I mean, I guess I do know people who already use glass bottles, but there are a lot of families out there who will specifically take the cheaper route because they have to.
How often do you go through bottles? Like do you keep them for the entire time?
What do you mean, baby bottles?
Yeah.
I didn't use them that often, so I kept a few on hand.
Okay, when you're out, basically, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So do mothers who use plastic bottles, how quickly do they change them? Like, do you just buy them and they're good for life?
They last a while, yeah.
Yeah?
Well, I guess, again, it depends on the brand, what you got.
And then there's those plastic bags.
Yes, yeah, that go in the bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what is that going to entail?
Oh, my goodness, that just made me think of all the women out there who freeze breast milk.
Yeah.
Like... there are deep freezers full of plastic bags with breast milk.
So how, like, I mean, I guess that's my question. Is it like, and I would suspect that he's not going to stop plastic bags. Like, you can't really stop Ziploc bags.
Yeah.
But apparently anything that's bottled will not be bottled in plastic anymore. And if you go to what he was talking about, those juice box water bottle thingies,
mm-hmm.
I think those were his exact words, they're lined with plastic.
Yeah.
Juice boxes are lined with plastic. So it's not helping anything. Like it doesn't do anything. So what's your take on the virtual signaling then? Because, that's what he's doing. It's a virtual signal. Like, he's making a policy with nothing. Like, it doesn't do anything. All it does is it makes more money. Like, it costs us more money as Canadians. So what's your take on that virtual signaling that he's proposing?
Like, you mean just telling everybody without actually having a solid plan already?
Yeah, like, it's just
I just think he needs to slow down. He's just making people talk about it now.
Well, then
I feel like he's not. To me, it seems like he is not fully prepared. Does that make sense? Like, he's jumping the gun almost.
Well, I'm not sure if he hasn't thought about it. I just don't think he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Like, I just don't think he cares. And he believes that a majority of the population is on his side about it. Like, that's what I think he believes. Even when he went to India, he thought that was okay.
Yeah.
Just fucking playing make-believe.
Yeah, like, he's in his own world. Does he not actually listen to the public?
Well, I think he's a child. This is the thing, right? He grew up with such financial privilege. He doesn't know what it is for a kid to go to an actual public school in Canada.
No.
He has no idea. He has no idea what it is to go to, like, a community college. Only from, like, aside from him doing a town hall in there. Like, he has no idea.
No, he lives in his own world.
And I think, let me ask you this. Prior to all of this, did you think Justin Trudeau was like a common person? Like a commandant person? Like a person like you and I?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why would you believe that with a last name like Trudeau?
It's just what I assumed, I guess.
But is the assumption coming from marketing? And what they made you perceive?
Yeah, I believe so. Like, when he first came into the picture,
yeah,
absolutely, I just thought he was normal. I even know somebody who met him and had their picture taken with him, and he was so nice.
Sure, but
and that was at the very beginning.
You could get your picture taken with Joe Rogan if you pay $100 and go to one of his shows at the end of his show.
Yeah,
it's the same fucking thing, right? Like, that's the same thing. So isn't it unfortunate that we have a bunch of people who are willing to vote somebody in because they have a nice smile and good hair?
Very unfortunate. Instead
of actually looking at what the fuck is going on, who's giving him money? What do they actually stand for? Because I'll be even more frank. Andrew Scheer is no different than Justin Trudeau. Like, at all. They're the same fucking people. You vote for Andrew Scheer, you might as well vote in Justin Trudeau. The only difference is Andrew Scheer might cut out the fucking carbon tax. But it's the same people. It's the same party. There's no difference. One's blue, one's red.
Yeah.
None of them are actually going to make a policy change. And when it comes to this plastic shit, all that does is it cuts Alberta's balls off. So have you heard about Bill C-69 coming in, which basically dictates in Canada we're not allowed to build a pipeline any longer?
I heard it mentioned.
There's no more pipelines. If that bill is going to pass, and that will systemically stop pipelines from ever being built. It'll never happen. And
That's outrageous.
Well, and being that Alberta's landlocked, which means we can't. There's no port in sight to Alberta, where the second largest oil reserve is in the world. It'll never get to open market.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Not at all. So the only people who you can sell Alberta oil to is Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC, and truck your gas. So you have to pay somebody's diesel to put gas in it that has carbon tax in the diesel of the truck, carbon tax in the fuel that's in the truck, to drive it to Ontario in order to sell it to Ontarians, Quebecers, people from New Brunswick, people from Newfoundland, all of these other places.
Eastern Canada,
yeah. So you are double taxed.
Yeah.
Plus the province has its own carbon tax. So it's a triple tax.
That's fucked.
I mean, it's outrageous.
Yeah.
So for us to say, well, this is the payment. This is what we have to pay in order to save the world. At what cost? Canada is less than a percentage.
Yeah, exactly. And you already mentioned how high our poverty rate is just here. So yeah, let's charge people more money.
Well, really, when you look at Canada, and I hate to be the bearer of this news, but really in Canada, we're 1% of the world. So even our most poor are richer than the majority of the world.
Yes.
Okay, but within our own economic environment, it's not like it's difficult to live in Canada if you're impoverished.
Yeah.
Right? If you're in poverty next to somebody who the gaps are bigger in Canada. So from $12,000 a year to medium, which is $60,000 a year in Canada, that's a long ways away.
Yeah, it is.
It's very difficult to grasp that financial gain. I mean, Catherine McKenna, who's our environmental minister, basically said that environment is tied with economy. She's right. She's very much right. However, environment should not be impacting our economy, not to create economy.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? So like when you were talking about producers versus conservatives or conservation next to producing technology.
Yes.
What Alberta has done is they have produced technology in order to keep their emissions down while producing oil.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what Alberta's done. Smart. However, this government would rather see it be restricted in its production. And there comes a point, especially in the kind of oil that Alberta has, which is already difficult to extract out of the oil sands, where it's unfeasible. You restrict it so much in its production, you can't produce it any longer. And if you can't produce it any longer, Canada, which is the second largest reserve of oil in the world, is now going to buy Saudi Arabia oil.
Yeah.
Because we can't afford to produce it.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous.
That sets us back before the 1980s. That's where we were trying to figure out a chemical compound in order to create oil. And if you read a book called Oil is Stupid to the Last Drop, they actually had an idea in Fort McMurray to take a nuclear bomb, put it under the ground, blow it up, because the heat would be so fucking hot that it would make the oil seep into a chasm in the ground. Huh. Yeah, you can't do that. Think about the atomic bombing fields in Nevada. You still can't even walk out there.
No.
Because it's toxic. Yet that was a viable option for oil back in the 70s in order to extract oil out of the oil sands. So, I mean, what Justin Trudeau's policies have done is it's created a whole new alienation for Alberta. Albertans feel alienated from the rest of Canada.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody who is a financial titan in Canada provincially, it is Alberta. Alberta right now, based on our oil that we can't produce, we pay $1 billion per quarter for equalization payments with the other provinces. $1 billion per quarter. That's every 3 months. We pay $1 billion.
Wow.
That we can't even create that money. So when you talk about environment here in Canada being tied to economy, yeah, we're going to the fucking poorhouse. That's like, imagine your mortgage is $1 billion. Every 3 months is what you're paying, and you're laid off. You're not working. It's the same idea, man. Same idea. Like right now in Alberta, we have almost, they say, so this is the other piece, when you see the direct effects of what this oil policy or the carbon tax policy has done in Canada. One time Alberta used to have a 2% unemployment rate. Mm-hmm. So right now they're talking about 14% unemployment rate in Canada.
Yes.
14% unemployment rate in Alberta. These are people on employment insurance. These are not people on welfare.
No.
And these are not the people who've been kicked off of employment insurance and never got welfare.
Right.
These are just the people on employment insurance.
Just the people getting their EI checks.
And so for Americans who are listening to this, our employment insurance is basically like your social assistance.
Yes.
It only lasts for so long, and then you have to go get less benefits, which is welfare.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we have a 14%, but the real number,
it's much higher.
We're looking at 28% unemployment right now in Alberta. When you see the numbers that we have of homeless, people becoming homeless because of the economic disaster that carbon tax has created in Alberta, it's astronomical. Mm-hmm. And then you have a premier like Jason Kenney, who is trying to corral them into, like, he got rid of carbon tax. Mm-hmm. We don't have it. So Alberta voluntarily, under the NDP banner, which was our last government, which is basically a bunch of socialists for those Americans who are listening, voluntarily brought in the carbon tax. When Jason Kenney, who's a conservative, basically like the Republicans down in the States, decided to come in, well, when they got voted in, he then got rid of the carbon tax. Then the federal government enforced a new carbon tax on Albertans that it's going to take place on January 1st of 2020. Provided that they're still in power, because we are going to an election in October. November. Mm-hmm. So, and when you look at Canada right now in its provincial elections, almost everybody except for BC right now is conservative. Mm. There's a blue wave when it comes, and I'm not a conservative. I'm probably a classic liberal. That's like probably what I line up with the most. And I'm blown away at how far left this federal liberal Justin Trudeau government went. I cannot believe that we voted in somebody's. He's the epitome of why we need to have a fucking a test for competency prior to running to be a prime minister.
No kidding.
I mean, the things that he's also the guy, and this fucking kill. We had Brock Blazchuk on the show last year, who is the guy who stood up to Justin Trudeau, basically put on him saying, why the fuck are you bringing terrorists like Omar Khadr back into Canada?
Yeah.
Like, why? And you give them $10 million. Sorry, Stephen Harper allowed Omar Khadr to come into Canada, but he was going to judicially put him in jail because the motherfucker's a treasonous cocksucker. He shot against our allies,
he did.
And for sure was caught murdering somebody, for sure, which he's never said sorry to, ever.
No remorse.
Justin Trudeau actually helped him hide his $10 million.
What the fuck? Like,
this is who's running our country, and the unfortunate piece is that I don't condone. Justin Trudeau is not he's so far left that I can't even say that he represents any of my values. Like, none of them. Before, I was able to say, with at least Jean Chrétien, there's a couple things that I agreed with, as much as some stuff I didn't agree with. Same thing with Stephen Harper. I didn't agree with everything, but there was some shit that I agreed with.
With Justin Trudeau,
there is nothing. Nothing.
Has it always been that way? What about when he first...
Well, let me ask you, is there anything that you agree with that Justin Trudeau has done?
No.
And out of what it is that you know that he's done, what is it that you vehemently disagree with? Or what is it that you do disagree with? And what are the reasons for that?
Well, the biggest things that get me is just I guess because I've mentioned this before, politics is not something I really followed until just recently, probably in this last year, I've actually paid attention. And it was because of conversations that are happening with family members and friends. And we're talking about just the poverty and the job loss. And like, I know many people who work in the oil field, and I think that's what really has set off my opinions on it and what really made me pay attention to everything that's been going on. And and I'll be totally honest, there is stuff all over social media about Justin Trudeau, and I can't help but agree with everybody seems to dislike him.
Well, and I think there's also a piece where I don't think we ever saw a time where really where we saw the federal government impose so many issues like we're seeing in our direct lifestyle, right? Like usually it's the municipality that has a lot of control, like the municipal government that is producing stuff into your life, right? Like there's a direct kind of relationship between us and like the city of Edmonton or the city of St. Albert or the city, right? We don't see that with the federal government so much, right? Now we're actually starting to see this direct thing that the federal government is imposing upon us in our direct life. Yeah. Right? Like before, you used to be protected by the province. So like Ralph Klein. Yeah. Whether you liked him or not, I mean, that motherfucker would go toe to toe with the federal government.
Oh yeah, he would.
And the oil companies would back him. They would go and invest in a project even if they didn't. So there was regulation and issue about it. And they knew because Ralph Klein was on the case, air quotes, they would still put the money into the investment because they knew Ralph Klein would win at the end of the day, or Ralph Klein would make the province pay whatever regulations the federal government was imposing upon them so that economy could still move forward. That was Ralph Klein. I was there. I was the surveyor on a project called Long Lake Project. We got shut down because these guys were going through frost in the ground, and the federal government's environment people were in the area, which was under the Jean Chrétien government. This was before Stephen Harper, and they shut us down for like 5 days at a cost of $250,000 a day with nobody moving.
Holy.
So they're paying wages, machines, and no production. Right. Okay. And there's literally a phone call to Ralph Klein. Ralph Klein said, "You make those motherfuckers move tomorrow. We're paying the fine. Alberta will pay the fine." Nice. And that was a $3 million fine. So they paid the fine, and they fucking started pushing equipment the next day. And they said, "Well, we'll keep paying the fine because we cannot have people not working." Yeah. Right? So I can say that at least Ralph Klein would do that. Yeah. As much as he cut the government, and he didn't. I mean, the biggest thing I hated about coming to Alberta was there was no social fabric. So, you came here, you had no money, no job, fuck all. You go to welfare and they'd say, "Yeah, well, we'll give you $300." Yeah. Like there's no social fabric. There was no help. And Alberta's always been tough like that. There's not a huge catch net in this province.
No.
Right? So, but there was a lot of work. And now that there is no work and the catch net is
still just as small.
It's just as small. It's brutal. Like, it's brutal. It's brutal what people are going through right now in Alberta. It's so unfortunate. And I honestly believe, like, if you look at some of the older Justin Trudeau videos, he said that he has disliked Alberta. He said it, like actually said it in French.
Okay.
You know, like, he basically says, you know, when the West is in power, Quebec is at a loss, and when Quebec is in power federally, is what he's saying. Mm-hmm. Then they're in like, they're doing better.
Right. When Alberta's doing worse, Quebec's doing better.
That's basically his idea.
Yeah.
And yet Albertans... So
do you think he wants Alberta to be not doing well right now?
Well, I think obviously his policy definitely dictates that he does not want Alberta oil to succeed. I mean, and that's the same thing with Catherine McKenna. They, like, Bill C-69 and any of these other bills that basically oppose the Canadian carbon or Canadian gas or petroleum products.
Yeah.
Any restriction in that basically says that Alberta is, you know, grinds us to a halt. Alberta doesn't have an industry. Like I said, Canada is a resource industry-based country. Mm-hmm. We sell gold, oil, copper, zinc, silver, and lumber. Mm-hmm. Lumber's done. I mean, I was just in a place called Clearwater, BC last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've driven through there lots.
2 mills closed. Two mills closed in the last week. That's 600 people in a town of 1,200 leaving.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Like half the population.
That's half the fucking town out of work because the NDP government in Vancouver fucked over lumber in BC. This is the same thing that would happen in see, I've always said this, that I think what really needs to happen is we need to have tribal councils as opposed to these great big governments with an overbearing jurisdiction.
Yeah. Yeah. You had mentioned that, a couple months ago when the election happened, we were talking about that.
Do you think that, in your opinion, that would work better? And how do you foresee a smaller jurisdiction of government as opposed to a bigger jurisdiction of government working?
I feel like more individual needs. I don't mean like individual people. I mean like individual cities, individual provinces would actually be having needs met. Because like you're saying, how in BC, that mill getting shut down in Clearwater, like obviously it would be more beneficial to have somebody focusing on the needs of BC. They focus more in that area, specifically on lumber. Here we need somebody on our side really fighting for oil. Like half a population getting shut down for lumber, that's outrageous. And then all these people here, like people used to come to Alberta for work.
Yeah, we would have flights every 2 weeks just to Fort McMurray from Newfoundland.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was about to say I have family in Newfoundland, and so many used to come here and live in Alberta for 5-6 months, work, and go back to Newfoundland.
Yeah.
And they can't do that anymore.
Yeah. It's all like I said, 43% of the economy was shrunk to where the automotive sector became the largest industry in Canada. And when you look at when oil was robust, it was 43% and automotive was only 12%. Then all of a sudden that 12%, air quotes, grew to 24%, 23%. That's not because there was more production.
No, it's
because the oil shrunk.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's why it became number one. I mean, fucking Oshawa, Ontario is only going to produce whatever the number of cars it is by day. Yeah. Windsor, the same thing. And now there is no longer an automotive sector in Canada. It's gone. Gone. Like there was a guy, and I think this was the oversight, if I could say, in your topic from climate change, is how drastic it was going to hit us in our economic values in Canada. I mean, I think that's an oversight by most people.
Yeah.
And I think this is a big reason why it's unpalatable towards the laity, commandant people, of why they don't think climate change is really going to work. Like these climate policies really work.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, where they're seeing the loss is in their pocket.
Exactly.
They lost their job and now they're paying more.
Yeah.
That's all they see. Well, what's the next industry? There isn't one.
No. All the industries are being taken away.
And this is where America was prior to Trump. Say whatever the fuck you want to say about Trump. The majority of Americans are working right now.
Yeah.
He's going to get voted in again in 2020. You're fucking crazy if you don't think he's not.
He may be an asshole, but look what he's doing for people.
Well, he's maybe an asshole. He may be a liar, but they all fucking know it.
Yeah.
They all know it. I mean, I knew Justin Trudeau was going to be a liar. I knew Stephen Harper was going to be a liar, right? Andrew Scheer, if he's the next Prime Minister of Canada, he's a fucking liar. Any politician's a liar.
I was about to say, isn't any politician a liar?
We know that.
Yeah.
Right? What I want to know is if you're going to get in there and fucking fight for me.
Yeah, take care.
If you're not fighting for me, why? Fuck, I don't give a shit what you got to do. Sell your mom, fucking sell your wife. I don't give a shit what you got to do to get Canadians back to work. Go and fucking do it. Yeah. That's your job. We hired you. You did not just get yourself in place. It didn't happen like that. And really, when you hear this fucking idiot Justin Trudeau talk about diversity as our strength, Canada is so diverse that we're fighting each other now because of the policies that he has imposed. None of us are getting along.
No.
Like from province to province. No. This is the first time ever in Canada where we have interprovincial trade issues, where Alberta is trying not to sell its oil, to BC, right?
Right.
And because of these issues, what the worst part is about that is we lean upon the federal government in order to make these relationships happen and be amicable towards each other. But Justin Trudeau, isn't he? He's just incompetent.
He's not making that happen.
He doesn't know how to do that.
No.
And he basically will go to. It's like playing your mother-in-law against your wife. Right? You go to your mother-in-law and you're like, yeah, she's a real bitch this week. And then you go to your wife and you're like, yeah, your mother's a real bitch too this week. Mm-hmm. You're playing both sides of the fence against each other, trying to be amicable to them to their faces, yet you're never coming to the table to become a mediator between the two.
Instead, you're an instigator.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Without ever, I mean, he's such a cowardly fuck, man. And he said it publicly, where what he didn't expect as a prime minister is all of the backlash. That's because you suck at your job. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you suck. What, you think that the bullshit that you were going to... His fucking platform when he was voted in didn't even have 3/4 of the bullshit that he's done to Canadians. Like, look at it. I've read the fucking thing. His manifesto. Air quotes, that's really what it is. They call it the platform or the book of the policies that they want to bring in. But the reality is it's a fucking manifesto. That's what it is. But what they're going to do. You go read that bullshit of what he said he was going to do. He hasn't done a fucking thing in it. Instead, he's got a whole other agenda that just came out.
Yeah.
Where it's kill oil, put more restraints on guns, like that's been his entire motivation this entire time that he's been a prime minister of Canada. And he's even the one who said that the prime minister's office is really just a figurehead. Well, then who the fuck's running the country? The bureaucrats? Because Jesus Christ, man, we should be voting them in fucking place then.
Yeah.
Right? Not you. If you are saying that you're fucking powerless and it's your bureaucrats who run everything, then why the fuck are we voting you in? We should know who the bureaucrats are in place and be voting for them to be in fucking place. Or maybe they should have a limit on the term that they're in that office. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's supposed to be the people who ask where they want what they want the services out of. And we've lost that. This is why the populist movement in the world is against climate change. This is why the populist movement across the world, like you look at Poland, America, Austria, Hungary, even Italy right now, why they voted populist was because they are opposed to being dictated to about what it is they have to accept.
Yeah.
Instead, they're saying, we're the people. You need to listen to us.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Right? And I think this is becoming more and more prevalent in Canada. And the unfortunate thing is everybody thinks that Andrew Scheer is a populist. He's not a fucking populist at all. Andrew Scheer is another Justin Trudeau. He may get carbon tax off the fucking table, but he's going to grind oil to a halt. He's going to be the same thing as Justin Trudeau. There's no difference.
Maybe people are seeing what they want to see or hope to see.
Well, I think it goes deeper than that. I think it goes to a place of marketing, and it goes to a place of public relations, which is really in turn the same word as propaganda.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, you don't know who those people really are. You think you do. You have an image of, we all thought Justin Trudeau was this great guy.
Yep.
He's a fucking idiot. He's an idiot. He's an idiot who got beat up in a trade agreement with Trump. Trump literally put him in the corner and beat him like a redheaded fucking stepchild. That's what he did. Like, if you read that deal that we have with America, it's unfucking real how much we got raped. You have no idea. Like, I think the last estimate that Stephen Harper, who went to go and try to renegotiate the deal as a fucking patriot of Canada, his estimated loss, was $90 trillion over 5 years in trade. You have any idea? Do you know what it costs for fucking healthcare in Canada? Just what we have right now, which isn't all that great. Healthcare. We don't put money in military because the majority of our tax money goes to fucking healthcare.
Yeah.
That would pay our healthcare for 10 fucking years. That's what healthcare really costs us. And we lost the production of that. Like, it's unfucking real, man. It's unfathomable how much this guy fucked the deal. Just fucked the deal. He conceded and has a concession on everything that we once had. We don't sell oil to America. Remember, people used to bitch in Canada that Americans paid for our oil less than what we did. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Now they don't even buy it.
Yeah, now they don't buy it at all.
So that's gone.
That's much
and
worse.
You cannot keep recycling your money. Right? That's what we're doing. It's like if I give you $5 and I'm like, hey, Chelsey, next month you owe me $5 to be on the podcast. And then I pay you $5 that month again for your wages.
Yeah.
You don't actually have it.
No.
We're just recycling it. Eventually, that just catches up.
Yeah.
Right? So like, it's unreal. Like I'm blown away at how much Canadians have ostracized themselves. And ostracizing means they're basically just sticking their head in the fucking sand. They don't want to know. This apathy that Canadians have needs to fucking burn away. It needs to burn away, and they need to fucking wake up. Because we have more at stake than just a placement in the world's economy.
Definitely.
You're going to lose your welfare. You're going to lose your health care.
Yeah.
You're going to lose your employment insurance. You're going to lose these things. And it's coming to a point where hard times make hard people.
Yeah.
And hard times are fucking coming.
Yeah.
They're coming. And they're coming fast.
Fast, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people like to live in ignorance, and I used to be one of those people. I'll admit it for sure. It's like almost if you don't know, like you said, just stick your head in the sand, right?
How do you get their attention? Like, how was your attention grabbed?
It was just personal choice to start looking into things because I realized how naive I was in a lot of stuff. I don't know if maybe this was all just a part of my recovery. I was just making my own lifestyle changes. I mean, for me, I think that's what it was. My head was in the sand because I was an addict for years.
Yeah.
And a part of getting my fucking life together actually meant paying attention to stuff going on around me.
And then I guess, so then how do we get people's attention now? Because when you, like, I'm sure that this show's going to come out. We're going to get banned because of some of the stuff that has been said. And they're going to say, well, we don't agree with the words that you said, blah, blah, blah. And then, become labeled as that right-wing whatever.
Yeah. Well, ask yourselves this. Do you care about yourself? Do you care about your life? Do you care about... Like me, I'm a parent. I care about the life that I provide for my daughter, but that means I can't just stick my head in the sand and expect everything to go in a way that's going to benefit me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be proactive.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just sit around and bitch about how shitty your fucking life is, but
and you have
stick
to be,
your head in the sand.
Yeah, and you have to be, I think, vigilant about what's happening.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, like I said...
You can take control of some aspects of your life.
If there's
in a way, obviously. I don't mean you can overthrow the government tomorrow, but...
Well, I will say this. If there's anybody that I would vote for that is a populist, is Maxime Bernier. Maxime Bernier is an actual populist in Canada, and it's very unfortunate. I don't think he's going to win the next election. He's probably going to ruffle enough feathers, but Maxime Bernier is probably, in my opinion, the best candidate. And if anybody were to actually look into the People's Party of Canada, it is a populist movement. Like, he is a populist.
What's his last name?
Maxime Bernier.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to try to... We'll see what happens in the near future, but I'm going to see if we can get a representative from that party on the show.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
I wouldn't... I'm just telling you right now, I will not endorse... I will not endorse the Liberals nor the Conservatives. And the reason for it is they do, in my opinion, they do not help with the freedom of expression at all. They are there to oppress what people... Like that whole Omar Khadr thing. They're there to oppress anybody talking ill will against that guy.
Yeah.
Or anybody who... I mean, there's a soundbite. Go and look it up on YouTube. I think Rebel Media has the soundbite, but there's other people who have the soundbite if you don't like Rebel Media, where Justin Trudeau literally says that he's okay with terrorists coming back to Canada because they're Canadians.
What the fuck?
You know what the word was for that back in times, and it was a sentence by hanging. It's called treason.
Yeah,
that's treason. You want to shoot against our Canadian military? You were no longer Canadian. That's a terrorist.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a treasonous motherfucker. That's a guy who is not an ally of Canada, and that's not something I want to foster within my tax dollars. And
absolutely not.
Do I think that they need reform and forgiveness? Yeah. In the place that they went to.
Yeah.
Not in my country. Right? The way how I see it, it's a win-win when the motherfucker's out of my country. Right? I mean, I'll put it to you this way. Hell's Angels has the same ideology. They're against the man too. And you know how they're against the man? They've got a thing called the War Fund, and they got a thing called drugs, pimping, and crime money. They see the government in the same light. They why do you think they blow shit up?
Yeah.
They're a fucking terrorist group. Hands down, that's what they are. Any faction of crime who's against... I mean, I remember people in my lifetime in that lifestyle who'd say, oh yeah, be a citizen, go pay your fucking taxes and go vote, you fucking idiot. Wait, what do you think they're really telling you? They're not a part. They want nothing to do with the government, and they're completely opposed to anything that the government has to do within your life because they air quote they live free. You know how hard it is to live free their way? Jesus, crying out loud, man. That's fucking a lifetime of punishment in prison. To be air quotes free.
Yeah.
Right? Well, what do you think these people are who are leaving for the Taliban? I mean, when I grew up where I grew up, it was like, go fight the man and become a biker.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Like, be antisocial, air quotes.
Yeah.
Right? Treason is treason. The only difference between somebody who's in the criminal element and that in the way that I'm talking about and somebody who is a part of the Taliban is they left the country. Hopefully, they left the country.
Yeah.
And we should not let them in. I mean, that's an idiot. Go leave the country to fight against us? I mean, I could give these criminals more respect because at least
they're
embedded.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like that makes more sense to me, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's mind blowing, and that's an actual clip. Like I'm almost saying that verbatim, where he says, "I believe that we should be allowing terrorists back into Canada because they're Canadians," and I believe that. What a fucking idiot!
Yeah.
What an idiot! You have no idea what. I mean, it's not like they're going to be marching into his gated community.
Yeah. Right.
Right? Like he could leave Canada if it gets that bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I can't do that.
Like that's the biggest thing that Brock Blazchuk was bringing to the table was this is fucking bullshit. This is bullshit. Right? So yeah, it's very, 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 very crazy. You know, that this went down the way that it went down. In regards to the carbon tax, this plastic ban. I think that this whole entire thing that Canada is producing in regards to like environment,
yeah,
is as stupid as Justin Trudeau.
Yeah,
like it really is. I mean, it just doesn't do anything for us.
It's just killing us.
And then the other headline that I read just a little while ago that fits with the restorative justice piece this month is isolation, which is where people go in jail when they're bad. So
yeah.
like when you break the rules in jail, they make you go in a room by yourself. They ground you to another room.
Yeah.
It's unconstitutional, says the Ontario Supreme Court. And then the highest court in Canada, the Supreme Court of Canada, decided that it's still unconstitutional, but they're going to let it happen until Canada can figure out how not to do it anymore. How fucked is that? So there's people still going into isolation for 23 hours a day.
Yeah.
And SHU is special housing unit, which is guys who are locked down 23/5. So you got a half an hour a day, 7 days a week. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the 0.5, I think 15 minutes is in the yard in a cage, and the other 15 minutes is for a shower.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
it. No phone calls.
Yeah.
Right.
Were you ever in isolation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got locked up for. I was not a nice guy when I was arrested.
Yeah. I knew a girl, lady, I guess. She was she was in isolation for 8 months.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, same thing. Well, yeah, just like half hour a day. I couldn't believe it.
Well,
actually, I met her in treatment, and that was like she went from isolation to treatment. So like huge change, obviously.
Yeah. Well, Kenny and I talked about what isolation was like. That's why we like the tanks. But it's a fucked up thing. Like I was saying before, what we all don't recognize as an actual punishment. I said this in the blog, was what institutionalization is.
Yeah.
And that is the real punishment, right? So how would you deal with isolation? If you were arrested, how do you think you would deal with being in that environment?
Do you get to have anything in there, like a book?
The Bible.
That's it?
That's it.
I guess I'd read the Bible. I don't know. I think I would struggle a lot because I like to keep really busy.
You're naked.
You have to be naked?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Depending on how far they go, they'll strip you down to your underwear. And if you're suicidal, so you try to play the suicide card, they put you in this thing called baby dolls.
A baby doll. I heard about it. I'll tell you a quick story. I was put in one of those in the drunk tank once. I was not suicidal. The lady did it to me because I was mouthing off too much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she stripped me down and fed that to me through a little slot in the door and said, "Here you go." And I froze my fucking ass off. I should have kept my mouth shut, I guess.
Well, it's pretty fucked up that's what they do in order to subdue you.
Yeah.
Right? They just...
It's not fun.
No. So
I couldn't imagine being locked up like that all day, 23 hours.
24. You would get 24. Probably, because you probably wouldn't get maxed out. No, you'd probably get like 23 hours is what you'd probably get. Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know if I could handle it.
What do you think, what kind of games do you think would be played in your mind? Because you know what I'm getting at here. Somebody who's never been in that situation to somebody who has been in that situation.
Yeah.
It's like I always had thoughts of what I would do in order to survive it. And then when you're in that situation...
Completely different, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's why I want to hear what you think you would do. Right? Like,
I feel like I would go crazy. You probably don't have a sense of time in there, do you?
No.
Oh my goodness, I don't even know. Maybe work out.
Yeah.
Like I said, read the Bible, work out, but...
And even the Bible, they take their sweet ass time. They don't give you the whole book.
Oh.
They rip it. So you're only allowed so much.
Holy.
Yeah. Yeah. So they typically give you maybe 50 pages at a time.
Yeah, that wouldn't last very long in a 23 hours stuck in that little room. How big's the room?
6 by 8. Regular cell. They actually have a picture of it on the thing. Yeah, it's like 6 by 8. So your toilet's right next to your head.
Yeah.
Your bed. And then it's basically about like arm's length, from middle finger to middle finger.
I feel like I would go crazy.
And it's a little longer than the length of your body by maybe a foot or two. So it's even hard to work out.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking that.
And the bed doesn't fold up.
So you have very limited space.
Yeah. You get your 3 squares a day. Very little human contact.
Yeah.
No TV. Right? Pictures, none. Not allowed. Like, that's all gone. So you can see why they say it's unconstitutional.
Well, yeah, it's awful.
So when you think like somebody coming out of jail and they're institutionalized, how long do you think that stays with somebody?
Forever.
Like psychologists say a lifetime, right? So if it's a lifetime, how much time are you really doing for your crime? It's a life sentence.
Yeah, life sentence.
Right? You're always going to be thinking of, jail was pretty impressionable upon me. It was pretty impressionable upon Kenny.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressionable upon anybody who ends up going in there. Right? It's not even people who work in there get PTSD.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
I know counselors who've worked in there as addictions counselors come out and they're like, fuck, I couldn't do more than 2 years. It's impossible. I can't work in that situation for longer than 2 years.
Have you ever seen that show? I think it's on Netflix where people go into jail for 60 days or 90 days prison.
Yeah.
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 Even just watching that show, I was surprised by some of the stuff that you see.
It's more American though. And I think the disillusion in Canada is that we're not America. And we so are.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we're more American than what Canadians really realize. Canadians think that out of a provincial sentence, most think that there's some sort of reform out of a provincial system, and there is none.
No.
Like, there's absolutely none. And even when the inmate is looking for programs, there's none offered besides probation, and probation has fuck all to offer too. Like in my podcast, I'm going to be going through the entire incarceration. My entire incarceration, what it looked like getting out, and then what it looked like to reform.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to talk about the statistics of where people don't make it and what I've actually seen through working with people. Because again, like you, I was in a place where I had a corrections officer willing to come in to talk about the abuses in the prison system, the Edmonton Max and Fort Saskatchewan Correctional Center, and they decided not to.
Last minute, I'm sure.
Because they were afraid.
Yeah.
I had a judge willing to come in to talk about drug court here in Canada, and he decided not to come in. And the reason why he decided not to come in was because he was too afraid of the backlash if he were to actually be honest about how many Canadians and how many offenders are never afforded an opportunity to restorative justice means. So he backed out.
Yeah.
It's...
Makes you just wish they wouldn't have. Well, makes me wish they wouldn't have, because obviously it's...
Saying that they would come in and then they didn't?
Yeah. Well, if they didn't, because they're scared about the backlash, that it probably would have been shocking what they had to share, right?
Well, I think this is the other thing, as well as that, is they don't want to be personally liable.
Yeah.
Right? Because the government has that much force. And like the CEO, what he basically told me is that like he still works in the system.
Okay.
Okay. And so he depends on those people. in order to be safe for his shift. And what he was afraid of is that they would just serve him up.
Yeah, see ya on your own.
I had a probation officer, an ex-probation officer that we were trying to get in. And actually parole officer from the federal system, not a probation officer, a parole officer, where there's an actual integration program in the federal system in Canada. And they refused. They were going to come in, and then they refused as well because they were too afraid that they would get sued if they were to actually talk the truth.
Yeah.
This is Corrections Canada really has to turn their head. I mean, they just did a massive investigation in the Edmonton Max. And under the restorative justice model, we're supposed to, even if you look at that blog where I said, and I really believe this, that if you look at the model of recovery, right? Well, why does recovery work? Because sponsors are free. They're volunteers.
Yeah.
And they can say, look at Chelsey, I can't work with you. You're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay? Because as a volunteer, you can do that. The second I'm sponsors paid, they can't leave you because then it's considered discrimination.
Yeah.
Right? And people who are trying to hire ex-cons to teach new reformers, air quotes, how to integrate into society, you're going to run into a lot of problems when those people are getting paid.
Yeah.
Right? Because all of a sudden you have now a guy who is still active in his criminality and you can't leave him.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a huge problem for a mentor. This is why mentoring...
Well, the mentor is being forced almost.
Well, yeah, and the mentor needs to have a back door out. If they don't have that, what the hell? You know, like you've now put them in a corner.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. In a position that they may not want to be in.
That's right.
Yeah, that's not fair.
And so, I mean, I agree that as much as the person who's the mentor needs to see what it's like for people getting out of jail, it's like, as a sponsor, I know I need that in recovery. And also for a mentor, watching a guy get out of jail, that's necessary.
Yeah.
And it's also necessary for the guy getting out of jail to see that there is success.
Yeah, there's hope. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
And that's what Liam and I, in that conversation that we had about a group restorative justice theme or a group restorative justice practice, that's how it would be utilized. And what we already have currently is, like, if you go to AA meetings, there's a lot of those, or A meetings, there's a lot of people in those groups who do have criminal records and ex-convicts, and all that stuff, right? Mm. So, like, there is support there that's free, right? Like, you'll find that there. You know, you end up listening to somebody's story or somebody talking, and you're like, oh, wow, the things that they went through the emotional things that they went through are very similar to mine.
Yes.
Right? And that's really what pairs the two together. It's not the actual events are sequenced in the same way. It's the emotions are sequenced in the same way, right? So, yeah, and like I said, this restorative justice piece, it was very unfortunate when it came push to shove for people to become truthful and actually talk about that. I knew it was a dirty system all the way through. Yeah. I knew it was. I've worked with clients getting through it. I've worked with clients who have such a fucking criminal record, you wouldn't even believe that they should even get bail again, yet they get bail again and again and again and again and again. And then you have other people who are low-risk offenders, can't get fucking bail if their mother was dying. Like, just cannot get bail.
Just doesn't make sense.
The system's only chaotic, and it's only chaotic with order within itself. So it's chaos all the way through, yet there's serious order to the way that they pick who gets bail and who doesn't get bail. You know, it's a fucked up system. It's not a great system. We've been working on it for a long time, and the values that we get out of it are very low in regards to very high in regards to recidivism, and very low in regards to success. Yeah, like it's mind blowing how deep that well goes. You know, when you see there is no real help. they would rather you stay within the system of incarceration.
Yeah, it's in there easier for them. Takes less work.
So how would you help somebody coming out of like being somebody who's naive to the restorative justice? If you had a family member coming out of jail, what would be your first? How would you suggest to help them if you were in a position to be suggestive at all?
I guess I have kind of been in this situation, and one of the first things I did was ask them if they were told about a place they could go or if they had options for support, because I have not been to jail, so I don't have personal experience. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I did was ask them if they were told or given any information, like, is there support groups? Because I didn't know, right?
What was the person seeking from you? Were they looking for a place to stay? What were they looking for?
Yeah. And they were told a place that they could stay, and just they were just sad. Not sad. They were just affected emotionally. They were a first-time offender. They went to jail. And
was this youth or adult?
Adult.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, how did guy or girl?
Man. And
so, when they came out, did they go to the supportive housing, or did they end up staying at your place?
No, they went to housing. Even this person was in there only 4 or 5 months, and he couldn't believe how little he was offered when he left. He was, I guess he made friends obviously while he was in there, and it was with people who were reoffenders, and they really gave him a rundown of how often they had been in there, and oh man, 90% of us would come back here.
Yeah.
It was just a well-known thing, and he's like, it's really different. You hear that, you're told that from people, but then when you see it firsthand and you actually see how the guards were not very many friendly ones, obviously. And I mean, they're not in there to be your best friend. I get that.
Yeah.
But he was just shocked because, I mean, people come out of there and they don't have friends and family to rely on, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most times when people go to jail, they've burnt all the bridges with their family, right? This is what
exactly.
And then what the state allows. So obviously you haven't paid rent. You've been in jail for fucking however long.
Yeah.
Right? And the state doesn't help you with housing when you leave. Mm. So who do you then rely on? Other convicts. Mm-hmm. In order to help you get through this.
Yeah.
So this then endorses the camaraderie offender to offender to offender to offender, because it then also reinforces the idea of them versus us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it creates that subculture like I was talking about with criminal gangs, right? Or the criminal element, where it's them against the government and fuck you, pay your taxes and go vote. You think that makes a difference? I mean, everybody within the criminal world knows that votes are bought. Mm-hmm. I've been involved in things where for sure there was skewed numbers in the vote.
Oh wow!
That for sure happens. I mean, elections are up for sale.
Yeah.
Believe you me, it's not like an actual democracy.
I believe it.
It's not what
well, in this particular situation too, this guy I know, he had to get ID. He had to try and get ID, but he didn't have other IDs in order to get them. You know what I mean? It was such a pain in the ass. And then he had to open a bank account, and he had to do all this in order to get even to go to a temp agency. And it's he was just let back out on the street with the few dollars that he had. He had to, it was just this vicious circle. I need ID to get a bank account, but I need this ID in order to get my driver's license, and I can't because everything expired and bank accounts were shut down while he was in jail. It's just a pain in the ass. But they're just here you go.
Yeah. See you later.
Be happy. We let you go 30 days early for good behavior.
Yeah.
You should be grateful.
I would have used those 30 days, you fuckstick, to get my new ID.
Yeah.
Prick.
Yeah, right?
Right?
It was surprise. You're going, wait, what?
I'm out.
But now what? Now what the fuck do I do?
Where do I go?
Yeah.
Where? Oh, the homeless shelter?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Yeah. It is a pretty shitty circle. I'll get into that in my podcast, about my personal experience and all that stuff. So let's talk about coming back. So we're taking a break, and that break is going to be from when we'll be off. So this is the last recording you and I are doing for right now.
Yes.
And we will have our first episode coming out on the second Thursday of July.
Yep.
And we're going to have some new logos, and we're also going out on the town to look for new bloggers and new content creators.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to try to take this time and expand the show to another episode, I think, for the week.
Yeah.
We're going to retune the blog. We're going to retune the format of the podcast itself.
Yeah. Change up the website a little bit.
Yeah. So there'll be some stuff there's some stuff that'll probably change over this time. We're also going to go looking for some new sponsors. I think, and we've had some changes obviously in content creators. I think all the listeners know, and it is what it is. And so, we're out there looking for new bloggers and new content creators. So if you're interested, you're more than welcome to get a hold of us at Justin at lifeonlifestermspodcast.com, and yours is the same thing with Chelsea.
Yeah, Chelsey. People tend to spell my name wrong, end it with an A. So
it's funny
just to make it easier.
is my spell check says the way that you spell it is wrong.
Yeah, Chelsey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those names wherever you find it on a keychain, it's spelled with an EA. Yeah, I know.
Fucking pricks.
Yeah, what the hell?
So what do you think you want to have change for the new format? Because I know we just changed the format like a month ago. You and I have talked about
to having to. Yeah, we just changed it so that we had our own individual topics for the month, right?
Yeah.
We were doing that for June this month.
Yeah.
Just I thought it was a great idea when we talked about it. I was excited about it. And then I decided I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I think the whole topic idea was a good trial run. But I know when I was just a listener, and when it was you and Kenny, I really liked that. I really liked the variety that would happen in the months. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just use an example. This isn't an accurate comparison, but like it would be Kettlebell Keith one Thursday, and then the next Thursday Lewis Cardinal. Is that his name? Yeah. I don't know if those two actually went back to back. I'm just giving an example, like two completely different shows, right? Like I like the variety, and I would like to give that back to the listeners. Yeah,
I think that's a better way of going about things.
Yeah.
And I think if we were to do topics, what might be advantageous is if we do them within our blogs.
Yeah, I like that.
Right? So if this way we could prepare it.
Yeah.
That way. And I mean, it's obviously more work for us, but I like doing this, so it's not really a job, so to say. So I think that's kind of where we might be headed in the future. And I also like the fact that, I mean, taking time off is always good. And I'll let this listeners in on this. A lot of shit's happened in the background.
Yes.
Over the last couple months. Yeah. And I think it's necessary for you and I to take a little break and take the time in order to set forward what's going to happen here on out.
Yeah, I agree.
Because a lot of bullshit's happened in the background.
Yes.
In the last, I would say, 60 days.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I think let's talk about what is the thing? Well, I guess before you came on the show, you had an idea of what podcasting was.
Yeah, an idea. Or so I thought.
Yeah. So what was the biggest mind bender for you now coming on as a content creator? Like, what didn't you think would be hard that's actually hard or difficult, I guess?
I don't know if difficult would, well, fuck my solo, but, but I was not aware of how much goes on behind the scenes and how time consuming everything is.
Yeah.
Like, I was just writing blogs and listening.
Yeah.
And then I was coming on once a month for the wrap-up show.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, doing research, especially with the topic theme, doing so much research and then trying to talk to people and find guests. I felt like I was in school again, like with how much research there was going on.
Yeah.
It's just time consuming, really.
Yeah.
And it can get difficult because I do have another job that I do and a 1-year-old, right? So it's just time management became huge for me this month.
Yeah.
Like I really had to focus on that.
Yeah, I think that's always the curve. And I think the other curve is finding time to come into the studio to sit down and record.
Yeah.
I think
our schedules have to try and line up somewhere too, right?
Well, and I think a lot of people think it's easy to sit down and record.
No.
And it's not as easy as it sounds. Like, I mean, I think it comes off pretty good. Yeah. This show, but there's a lot that goes into what's happening, right? And I think I know for Kenny when he was on the show, he basically said the biggest thing that he recognized was time, getting the time in the studio. I think that's the, as much as it's an hour or whatever sitting in front of a mic, there's probably 4 hours that go behind every hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we have a lot of content on this channel now. Like I think actually this is 113th episode. Wow. This one here, right? So yeah, it'll be, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit of hours so far. Yeah. Right. Actually this will be 114th episode. I miscounted. Okay. But yeah, so I mean, it's a lot of hours that have been put behind.
Oh, for real. And like if you guys are listening to an hour-long episode, well, guarantee that we were talking for a minimum 30 minutes before we recorded, and there's probably a whole bunch of shit we have to talk about afterwards too, right? Like it's a lot of time.
Yeah, the debriefing can be some. Yeah. But I mean, enough about how hard the job is. What's been the highlight of doing this that you like so far?
Well, in the same breath, I can almost say that it's easy. I mean, I don't have anybody breathing down my neck. I don't have a boss. Yes, you and I have to make our schedules work just for recording time, but we are still picking our own schedules. Yeah. Like, I love that. I love the people that come into the studio. I love that I get to write. And I mean, I love how much I learn, I guess. It's really opened me up to stuff. Yeah. To different topics. And I don't know. There's something about the energy of being in here. I always leave in a good mood. I like it's refreshing. I like the interaction with a bunch of people. Yeah. And I think what I was finding with the topics is that you get narrowed into a certain amount of people. Yes. Right? And that makes it difficult to continue on, especially when you come across really good ideas and you really want to endorse that and it's not really jiving with the topic that you have. And I think that really loses the mission of being able to put in as much as you possibly can into the stream of life, which has always been Life on Life's terms kind of mission is to do that. And I think that what the topic piece does is it stops that. Yeah, it really limits. Yeah. And so I think what may happen is with the blog is that they may go out and write pieces on events that are happening right now.
And then you and I will come in the show and talk about those bloggers and what they've written.
Okay.
So like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm really putting it out there. If you guys want to be a blogger and get mentions on podcasts and, open your blog up to financial gains, email Chelsey and I so that we can figure out how to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think that's the way that we're going to turn the corner. We've reinvented this show more than once.
Yeah.
And I think that's the next piece is to go about this way of reinventing what the blog is to the podcast.
And it expands it, right? It expands the show. I like it.
Yeah,
a lot.
I think that's where we're gonna go. So we're gonna take this time until the second. So the next show will be out on the second Thursday of July, and and that'll be the first show. And we'll give more details exactly of how we're going to reformat the show. But you can for sure check it out on the Facebook page. That'll be the first place that'll be on.
Yeah.
And also the website.
Yeah.
So the website it'll be there. And it'll also be on Facebook. Hopefully by after, like the Monday after this show is when it'll be out. And then you guys can take a peek.
First of July. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So www.lifeonlifetermspodcast.com.
Yeah.
If you don't know that already.
Yeah. And throughout the week, we'll be punching out those videos and clips and all that stuff. So stay tuned to all that stuff. And I really look forward to what we're going to come up with, because I think with all the stuff that's happened in the last 60 days or so, we just need a breath of fresh air to come blowing through the microphones, and I think this is the way to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Is just opening it up this way. So, yeah, that's the piece. That's an hour and a half for this show.
Alrighty.
And we're gonna sign off and see you guys second Thursday of July. You can check us out at. Like Chelsey said, www.lifeonlifestermspodcast.com, or my Twitter, which is Life on Life's Terms. Your Twitter is what?
Chelsey Kapler.
And then Instagram of mine is Life on Life's Terms. Yours is
Chelsey_Life on Life's Terms. Don't forget it's with a Y.
And then there's that Facebook page. So stay current and check us out on those platforms. But we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a wonderful couple weeks.
See you guys later.
Peace.